When your codebase is slowing you down, the delivery time is dragging, and the developers are complaining about making more changes to the software, you are facing a call to make. Patch it, rebuild it piece by piece, or tear it down and start over. Most teams decide that on a gut feeling, and it's one of the most expensive coin flips in the business. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how we make this call when our clients face this challenge. My name is Matt Kupczyk, and I'm a founder of Brival, a senior-led software engineering practice. Over the last decade, we've built and modernized software for more than 100 companies, from startups to enterprises. A big part of what we do is modernizing systems that have outgrown their foundation. Let's start with the signs. Here are 5 symptoms that tell you that system might be due for modernization. Those are the ones we run into most often. Number 1, scalability and performance issues. The system hits a ceiling and users feel it because it's getting slower and slower. Sales keep closing clients the platform physically can't carry. So you either turn away revenue or you crash under the load. Number 2, operational struggle. The thing works, but it's closed off. No clean integrations, no interfaces, so every enterprise you onboard costs you a week of engineering just to wire it up to anything. Number 3, poor architecture and too much complexity. This is the one where the system fights back. One change breaks 5 other things, integrations get unreliable, they work one day and fail the next. And your developers start complaining about workarounds, using parts of the system for things they were never built for. Every extra integration, every duplicated app is one more thing to maintain and one more place to break. So a lot of modernization is actually about removing complexity. You take 10 flaky outside integrations and fold them into the code you own. Or you take 3 separate front ends, a web app, a native iOS app, and a native Android app, and collapse them into a hybrid codebase, something like React Native that a single small team can actually maintain. Number 4, weak security. The pattern we keep seeing, especially in vibe-coded apps, is software that looks perfect on the surface, but underneath it's patched together and no one can actually tell how the data is protected. And this one is usually worse than people think. If your security was built for an MVP or vibed, there's a chance it might not survive an enterprise review. The classic example we see is open permissions or wildcard security rules, which means anyone who knows where to look can pull every user's personal data and wipe the whole database on the way out. That's not a bug that you fix on Monday, that's a business just gone overnight. Number 5, the limited talent pool capable of supporting your product. When hiring people within a reasonable budget becomes a handbrake on the whole organization. The code itself can be just fine, but the hiring is not. So even if you have the money, the time, and the backlog, you might still hit a ceiling. We had a company reached out about a 1-year-old CRM built in Elixir. And it wasn't because the tech was the best for the job, but because the co-founder happened to know it. And the problem with that is that there are more than 20 times as many JavaScript developers out there as there are Elixir ones. So Elixir talent is genuinely hard to find, and when this company raised a round and needed to grow the team, that's exactly where it bit them. Now, noticing these and acting on them are 2 different things. Most teams live with a slow, tangled systems for years, and they do it until someone forces the decision. The motivation behind it is always one of 2 things. It's internal, you finally decide you have to move faster, or external, someone else requires it. A SOC 2 certification or an enterprise client security review that you can't close the deal without. Most of the time, you don't go looking for this, it gets forced on you, which is exactly why it's worth knowing how to handle it before it lands. So you see the symptoms, whether it's one of them or all 5 at once, you know you have to do something about that. The decision of how you'll approach modernization needs to start with discovery. You have to collect data in order to make an informed decision. Our discovery process really comes down to being honest about 2 things. First, the system itself, where it is today and where it actually needs to get to. And second, the business behind it, what you're trying to achieve and what's genuinely standing in the way. Let's take an example. Say you are selling the business, and during due diligence, your system fails the security review. The business goal is the exit, the roadblock is the review, and the system is caught in the middle, insecure today, and expected to be airtight tomorrow. And there might be probably 100 other things wrong with that system, because there always are. But an honest discovery is about separating what actually blocks the business, like that security review, from what's just an engineer's nice to have. You fix what stands in the way of the goal, and the rest has to wait. Knowing what matters comes first, but the second half matters just as much. You put real numbers on it. Remember that the code feels bad is not a real diagnosis. Before you make a choice, you should have a baseline, and here are 4 things worth measuring. First, technical health, how it performs. Response times, crashes, uptime, the things your users actually feel. Next is complexity, how big and tangled it is. How many platforms and subsystems, how many screens, endpoints, database tables and models. The more moving parts, the more it costs you to make every change. Next one, quality, so how it's built. Test coverage, security posture, how bad the tech debt really is, and whether architecture can still hold up. And the last one, business value, what it returns. Time to market, cost to maintain, and the one everyone skips, which parts of the product people actually use. This matters more than it sounds, because it tells you what's worth carrying forward and what's just dead weight you can simply drop. The good news is that if you cover these 4 areas, now you're not guessing, but you're choosing a path based on evidence. So we finally got to the modernization paths. There are 4 of them. If you expected more of a to rewrite or not kind of answer, it might be surprising to you, but you heard that right. There are 4. Number 1, continue as is. This is about shipping on the system exactly as it stands. It fits only when the pain is genuinely low and nothing on the horizon needs more from it. The honest risk here is that this usually isn't a real decision, but it's a drift dressed up as one, and it often just happens naturally. I'll be straight with you. In the age where AI lets you ship improvements continuously and cheaply, doing nothing is rarely a way to go anymore. You have every tool you need to keep making things better at very little cost. But here's the part that matters even if you decide to follow this path. Continuing as is doesn't mean continuing to make it worse. Deepening the debt needs to be off the table. So even when you're not ready to modernize, you should still set a new, higher standard and hold every new thing to it. You don't have to go back and cover all the old code with tests, but remember that every new feature that gets built should ship with its own docs, test automations, etc. Thanks to this approach, the old debt stops growing, and the parts you touch most often quietly start getting better on their own. We did exactly this for a company that wasn't ready to fully modernize yet. We set a target standard and enforced it on the new work only. So at least the codebase stopped sliding backwards. Number 2, stabilize. You keep the system and you clean it up gradually as you build. Here you're going for an acceptable shape, even if not the perfect one. This is the right call when the bones are sound, when the real problem is debt and coverage or security drift, not the fundamental architecture. And the way you do it is through discipline. You pin the existing behavior down with tests first, and then you refactor safely behind those tests. And where you start matters as much as what you do. Remember to go for the lowest hanging fruit first, the changes that buy the most improvement for the least risk. Let's say your pain is performance. You don't rewrite anything yet, but first you measure. You find the heaviest endpoints, the slowest one and the ones called most often, and you optimize those first. A small targeted fix is an improvement your users will feel immediately, and it buys you room to do the rest calmly. Here's another example. A company came to us for an audit, a fintech platform running loan management. It was working in production, serving clients, actively being sold. The pain was regressions, almost no automated tests, so every change risked breaking something. On the operational side, there was barely any automation anywhere. Onboarding a new client took a week, and it was fragile because every client ran on its own environment, and each one had to be deployed by hand. When we looked under the hood, it turned out to be two separate front-end code bases sitting on aging .NET backend with over 900 API endpoints. This is not something you casually rebuild. So our recommendation was to stabilize, but in a specific order. First, catch up on characterization tests. Those are tests that freeze the current behavior in place, so you can change things without breaking what already works. Then automate the processes that hurt most, starting with that manual week-long client onboarding. And only then, with that safety net underneath you, do you actually start paying down the debt. The framework upgrades on the aging backend, the complexity reduction, the rest. Freeze it, make it safe to touch, then pay it down. That's the same discipline that recently took a healthcare platform from effectively zero tests to over 95% coverage with automations, all live under a security review deadline without it ever going down. And we did that with AI doing much of the heavy lifting, which is exactly what made catching up fast and affordable. Number 3, strangle incrementally. You stand up a new system right next to the old one. Then you migrate over feature by feature until the old one can finally be switched off. This one has a name. Martin Fowler calls it the strangler fig. And the whole point is that the value arrives gradually and visibly instead of the one big lump. And there's a buy-side version too. Instead of building the new piece yourself, you can adopt an off-the-shelf product and migrate toward that. This fits when you genuinely need a new shape, but the business can't stop delivering while you get there. The risk is that you are running two systems side by side for a while, and the strangle that stalls halfway is its own kind of a mess. We reached for this on a media processing platform, a decade-old codebase moving terabytes of data each month that clearly needed a new shape. But it earned revenue every single day, and it simply couldn't go offline. So we built a new platform alongside the original and rolled users over gradually. No big bang cut over. Thanks to modernization, the downtime incidents dropped 90%, the infrastructure cost dropped 80%, and the business ran the entire time. Number 4, big bang. You stop, you rebuild, and you cut over to the new thing. This is the most debated path, and it is for good reason. A full rewrite throws away every bug you already fixed and every bit of hard-won knowledge baked into the old system. Even the worst codebase, once proven in production, carries some organizational value about edge cases, and it might be harder to preserve during rewrite than many people think. So this path, in our opinion, fits only narrowly in one of the 3 cases. A, when the foundation fundamentally can't carry the promise, no matter how much you clean it up. B, when the system is small enough or early enough that you are not throwing much away. Or C, when a hard external deadline leaves you no room to be gradual. And before you pick the path, you owe yourself one brutal question. This one's from Joel Spolsky. What makes you think you'll do a better job the second time? Because the risk is a project going for months with nothing shipped, while your competitors and your customers keep going on. We made exactly this call for a product that was pre-product market fit, with a foundation, architecture, and security that was fundamentally broken. And there was an investor milestone it could never have reached on that code base. So we rebuilt it with that milestone designed in from start. This rewrite was what opened the door for the company to the enterprise segment. One warning across all four, because it's the honest thing to say. AI has made the incremental paths cheaper. It has even made rewrites more reasonable than they used to be. But the safety doesn't come from the model. It comes from the delivery discipline, tests, from guardrails, and from rolling out in stages. When AI translates your code into the new one, it makes mistakes systematically, and only a real test suite ever catches them. So, how do you actually land on one of the four? It's not a scoring grid, it's 3 simple questions asked in order. First, does the foundation need to change at all? If no, continue as is. Second, if the foundation needs to change, can the current one carry the promise? If it just needs cleanup because the bones are good, you stabilize. Third, if it needs a genuinely new shape, can you get there while the system keeps running? If yes, you struggle. If no, if you truly have to stop and switch, that's when Big Bang makes sense. Notice that it's all about identifying the business path, from tolerating the pain to an acceptable system to the system the product actually deserves. And the goal is to take on exactly as much disruption as the outcome requires and no more than that. So that third question, can you change it while it keeps running, is the one that does the most work. It's the whole lesson, really. The path isn't set by how bad the code is, but it's set by whether you can change it while it's still running. Okay, so here's the hard one, because choosing the long-term shape is the easy part. Given enough time and money, everyone wants the system their product deserves. The projects that actually keep you up at night are different. They've got a staged sequence of goals, all depending on each other, with not enough resources to modernize properly, even once. And this is the trap. And I've watched founders walk straight into it over and over again. Let's take an example. Picture a founder, pre-product market fit, already a little behind, who needs to be ready to onboard one big client. So the plan is to win the deal on a patched-together prototype-grade version. Cheap, bit of fragile, stitched together, and then the big client lands. So there's finally money to do it right. But here's the squeeze. At every stage, the client expects more. While at first, it just has to demo well, then it has to actually work in production. But the money to build that only arrives after the deal is signed. So you owe a better system before you can pay for it. And you are betting that the window between signing and onboarding is wide enough. Enough time, enough team, enough attention to get from demoable to working without burning the contract down. When that window is tight or uncertain, it pushes you hard towards stabilize or strangle, the paths that keep delivering while they improve. And it pushes you away from Big Bang, which stops delivery at the worst possible moment. And underneath all of it, this is really a business bet about timing. Do you invest ahead, spend the money to get the system ready before the contract is even signed? And that's speculation. Or do you wait until you win the deal first and take on the risk of catching up on debt once the resources are finally in place? Neither option is free. One bets your cash, the other bets your delivery. It's not an easy choice, so make sure you're making that bet on purpose and not by accident. One thing to take some pressure off. Whichever path you pick, it isn't forever because these paths sequence, and it's a completely normal journey. It goes like this. Continue as is until the debt starts to bite. Then stabilize, and later when the promise finally needs a new shape, strangle. Or you jump straight to a rebuild. What's important is to rerun this whole decision at every major milestone. One last thing, why now? We believe that every few years software has to be redone. That's just the nature of it. 15 years ago, everything moved from the desktop to web. 10 years ago, everything moved to mobile. And the shift now is that systems need to become agentic, ready for AI to actually operate them, and open enough to plug into everything around them. Each of those waves left a lot of perfectly good software suddenly a generation behind. What's different this time is the cost. AI has made modernizing and rebuilding genuinely affordable because work that used to take years now takes months. So decisions that were quietly off the table, the rewrite, the migration, the clean architecture you could never justify, are back on it. But the honest first move is never to pick a path, it's to measure. So you choose on evidence, not on a gut feeling or a vendor speech. That's exactly why we tell our clients to start with an audit before they commit to any path. An outside senior look at what you can actually own, what's breaking, and what to do first, based on your numbers, not ours. So that's how we decide what to do with a system that has outgrown itself. If this was useful, it's the kind of thing we publish regularly, how to modernize and build high-quality software, and how that's shifting in the era of AI. Subscribe to this channel so you can catch the next one. And if you want more, visit our website, brival.co, and sign up to our newsletter. That's where we go deeper and share the numbers behind our work.